Scentland, the land of scent. Hello and welcome, Chris back with another fragrance review coming to you straight from 6th Avenue, New York City. And I'm gonna be reviewing a fragrance that is featuring the name of the city again by the house of the niche house of French origins, Olfactive Studio. They've been founded fairly recently in 2011, and they have released many very good and very high quality fragrances. And among them there was a fragrance called Flashback. That was a few years back, and last year they introduced to the market another flashback fragrance called Flashback in, guess what, New York. There you go, there's your fragrance. And this particular fragrance is indeed all about New York City. How does it achieve that? It's a very special blend indeed, and I highly applaud it, because to me this is indeed the best niche release of last year. Jérôme Epinette is the parfumier, and the house of Olfactive Studio has paired up with Viviane Gukwa, who is a famous photographer, and she has been providing the artwork for this particular fragrance, while Jérôme Epinette was the one who did the fragrance itself. Now the fragrance is all about woody, leathery, slightly dirty notes, right? It's very refined, yet at the dry down it carries a note that I will get to once we talk about the dry down actually. The fragrance itself has been inspired by New York in winter time. Now it's the end of February and it's bloody cold, as you can see from my gear, so it totally fits. You know, the temperatures and the city fit this review, Flashback in New York. Now you have cumin, saffron definitely being present in this fragrance, paired up with some violet and jasmine and Tuscan type of leather in the dry down, as well as vetiver. Now this, as well as some tonka bean as well, but it's not that sweet. It's not actually sweet. It's a bit sweet, but not that direction at all. And it's not your usual safe play, especially in regards to the dry down. Now before we get to the dry down, I have to say that already the initial leathery woodiness that this fragrance is starting with is already something way better than the usual take on this theme, on the leathery, woody, aromatic direction that most of today's designer and niche fragrances take. This is definitely a standalone fragrance that I have not smelled anything close or similar, and this is what I expect from a niche house, to come up with a concept, especially if they're facing a city or a place like this in their marketing, in the actual name of the fragrance. New York is a very special place, and this fragrance, and each fragrance that carries the name of New York has to live up to that standard, and this one does 100%. Now it's a very refined blend, and as I say, it's all about the woody, leathery aspect. Now as the dry down arrives, we get to the most exciting part of this fragrance, because even though there's vetiver in the dry down and there's this, you know, woodiness paired up with this jasmine and sage and cumin, saffron, sage I haven't mentioned, sage is in there as well, I love sage. So all these are so extremely well blended that the fragrance is totally enjoyable throughout the entire development. It lasts actually almost the entire day. Not much need for reapplication, especially because, and then I get back here to the dry down. The dry down is featuring a fantastic weed type of note, right? It's almost like you walk in the streets of New York, and it does happen loads of times when you just walk, especially in the cold, you can smell if somebody walking, you know, just passing you or walking in front of you is smoking weed, marijuana, right? And so this fragrance features that. So you walk in the streets of New York City somewhere, can be any part of the city, does not need to be in this part, the you know, the Midtown type of 6th Avenue or 5th Avenue or whatever. It can be Brooklyn, it can be Hell's Kitchen, it can be Little Italy. Sometimes, rather often, depends on the neighborhood, right? Depends on the borough. You smell this distinct smell of weed being smoked in the city, and this fragrance dries down to that. It's not, luckily, it's not to the extent of Kinski, you know, the other great niche fragrance, one of the other great niche fragrances that features weed. This is a more kind of lingering weed, not in your face marijuana type of this just lingers in the air like somebody's smoking it around you. So that makes this fragrance having a real boss, you know, a real sophisticated and typical New York City vibe, you know. And this is where it really captures me, apart from being a very nice blend and excellent compliment getter actually, that it does not go for the straight dry down. It goes for the tough, rough, street feeling, New York street vibe dry down, right, with this weed accord in it. So I'm a total fan of this one. I carry this, I wear this here because this is where it belongs, in New York City. Flashback in New York. So try to get your nose on it, try to test it, because it's just an absolute stunner. As I say, to me it's the best niche release of 2018 last year, and I'm very happy to wear it. It's dedicated to the winter time in New York City. It's winter now here in New York City, and I totally rock this fragrance because it's a fantastic juice. So thanks very much for watching. This was Chris from New York City with a flashback in New York from the precious house of Olfactive Studio. Take care, and see you soon for another review. Take care. Bye bye.